The cop told him, "You'll go to prison," but when he opened his passport, he instantly cried. Gennady noticed that his wife Marga was staying up late at night, and in the morning she woke up late and went to work late. So his friend, the owner of the beauty salon, called him and asked him for explanations about why his wife was late for work, and told him that if the situation continues, in this case, he would expel her. But Gennady tried to calm him and told him that she had been troubled in the last days and promised him that everything would be fine in the coming days. The young man returned home in his black Mercedes and found his wife still sleeping. Then he asked her to go to work because everyone was waiting for her in the barber shop. But the young woman refused, so he went out angry and immediately went to work. He was upset with his wife that it had only been 2 years since their marriage. Gennady called his friend Oleg and asked him to meet so that they could drink a cup of tea together, as he loves his friend very much and turns to him in times of trouble. Oleg is a humble young man who does not speak much. He is smart and kind and always deals with problems wisely and cunning, so Gennady consults with him on everything. Gennady works as a doctor, while Oleg is a fashion designer, and he is still at the beginning of his career, so it was a bit difficult for him. Because his goods were not marketed, so Gennady supports him financially. The latter was hoping that his friend would achieve more success in order to allow his wife, Marga, to work with him, as he realizes that his friend will bear her annoying and irresponsible behavior. When Gennady noticed that his wife no longer cared about him, he went to his mother's house, and there he eats her delicious food and sits to talk. He looked at her face and remembered those words that she repeated every time when he told her that he wanted to marry Marga. She used to tell him every time that she was not suitable for him, and he must think well before marrying her. But the young man hastened a lot, and he married her only 2 months after their first meeting. On that day, the mother brought a wonderful Italian pizza, and she and her son sat down to eat. She noticed that he was anxious for her food and realized very well that his wife does not take care of him, and he is not happy with her. So I asked him about her, except that the son pretended that everything is fine, and while his wife is working, and they live quietly together. Marga did not respond to Gennady's message, which added to his surprise, and he decided to know what was in her head. When the young man returned home, he did not find his wife there, so he called the owner of the beauty salon, but the latter told him that she had not come to work, so he got very upset and sat on the sofa thinking. He was watching the things lying on the floor and was upset by the bad smell coming out of the kitchen, and he wished that Marga was there to scold her, but that day she did not return home. And she also turned off her phone so that no one would disturb her. The only thing that made Gennady forgive his wife was his great love for her. When the young man did not find his wife at home, he immediately left for work and kept wondering all the time what the latter was thinking. He suspected that there was something wrong and that he must move to reveal what is happening. When the young man returned home in the evening, he entered the store near his home and bought some things. When he went out, he found his young neighbor, Lena, carrying many things and walking on the road. Then he offered her help in carrying the things and continued walking to the building in which they lived. The beautiful young woman asked Gennady if he had separated from his wife. Then the young man was surprised by the question and told her that they were still together. Meanwhile, the young man tried to say something, but suddenly stopped and changed the subject. Then Gennady realized that she was hiding a secret and kept begging her to tell him what she knew about her. The young woman said that she saw his wife riding with a man in his luxury car an hour and a half ago, and she was wearing elegant clothes as if she was getting ready to go to a party. Gennady was completely silent and kept thinking all the way, and when he reached his apartment, he tried to call his wife to make sure of the matter, but the latter did not answer his call, which left him in shock. He was confused and wondering why his wife did these behaviors, even though he was looking after her, buying her gifts, giving her money, and providing her with everything she wanted. Gennady opened his account on the social networking site and kept browsing the site, but suddenly he saw a recent post by one of Marga's friends, including a picture in one of the city's amusement parks. Then the man realized that his wife might be there with her, got into his car, and quickly headed towards the amusement park. And when he got there and entered, he found the club full of people all dancing, having fun, and drinking wine. Suddenly, his wife, who was wearing a flagrant dress, appeared dancing with one of the young men, holding him by the neck and kissing him on his lips, while the young man was caressing her body and kissing her as well. Gennady immediately went to that young man and punched him hard in the face until he dropped him to the ground, then started kicking him in the stomach. Then Marga started screaming and pushing Gennady back, then bowed to check on her lover, whose nose was bleeding. The husband was surprised by what his wife was doing, and he pushed her to the ground and slapped her. Meanwhile, 2 police officers entered the club and arrested Gennady, placed handcuffs on his hands, then put him in the police car and took him to the station. While they did not arrest Marga and her lover because of those in the club, they told the 2 police officers that Gennady was the aggressor. The police officers interrogated Gennady, but they did not believe his words, even though he told them that he found his wife cheating on him and they treated him cruelly. They placed him in an isolation cell inside the center and left him to spend the night alone there, awaiting his transfer to complete the investigation the next day. The young man remained sitting in the cell alone, and after an hour of time passed, a police officer came, opened the door, and asked him to join him. Then Gennady went out and went to an empty hall, sat there, and stayed waiting. Suddenly, a bald man in formal clothes entered and asked him what happened to him, and when the young man told him what had happened, he asked him to wait there, and then he called the officer overseeing the police station and told him that he could not find his lord imprisoning the young man. However, the latter smiled and asked him who he was and what he was doing at the police station. Meanwhile, the bald man took out his passport and gave it to the officer, and when he read it, the bald man pardoned the man and told the police to let him leave immediately. Gennady kept following that man and did not know anything about him, and when they left the police station, he found his friend Oleg waiting for him at the police station, where he checked on him and introduced him to that person who is his father, and told him that he had promoted months ago and became the Inspector General of the police corps throughout the province. Gennady did not believe that his friend's father had reached this rank, but he was happy that he had left the police station and thanked his friend and father very much for all they'd done for him. Gennady made all the divorce procedures from Marga and separated from her in a short time, and he lives with his mother in her home. His friend Oleg advised him to marry immediately because he needed a wife to make him forget the bitterness that Marga had caused him. The young man told his mother that he wanted to marry and that he would start looking for a wife. Then his mother immediately suggested to him the young woman Lena, who lives next to him, as she told him that she was a good, beautiful, and intelligent young woman, which is appropriate for him. Gennady immediately accepted his mother's suggestion, approached his beautiful neighbor Lena, and asked for marriage, which made the young woman very happy because she liked him before. But she found no way to approach him when she realized that he was married. Weeks later, they got married and moved into Gennady's home.